Hey y'all. Welcome to another live aspiring CRA Q A with me, Jasmyn. Um, let's see. Let me get my comments up. Okay, so I think y'all should be able to hear me. And I know I posted this invite a little bit late, so hopefully most of y'all are aware that we are back on this week. Hi, Bucky. Hopefully, y'all are aware that we're back on this week. Hopefully, you can see me good. And that, you can join. LinkedIn is my primary platform, but y'all know I'm also on YouTube and Facebook as well, just so you know. But LinkedIn is my primary platform. So I want to give everybody a few more minutes to join. Hi. And please forgive me if I'm saying your name wrong. Ejo, Krista, hi, how are you? Krista, I think your question is actually first. Yep, your question is coming up first. How are y'all? I'm assuming y'all can all see me and hear me since I see everybody saying hello. Cloud, hi. Ola Jumoke. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. Hey everybody, let me know. Olu, let me know where you're joining us from today. Some of y'all I see you on the regular, so I kind of have an idea. But just so everybody else know, let us know where you're joining us from. I'm in Wake Forest, North Carolina, for those of you who don't know. I see some more people from LinkedIn joining. Hi. Hey everybody, Cassidy. Some other people, and for some people that are saying hello, if you don't hear me respond, so depending on how you show up on LinkedIn, it might just say LinkedIn user if your profile isn't public. So I might not, somebody said first time joining, welcome, thank you so much. First timer, please put your questions in the comment. You can also DM me directly if you don't feel comfortable posting it in the comments. But just if you don't hear me say your name and I see somebody from Kansas City, Missouri, Cali, Atlanta, Nevada, welcome everybody. Austin from Atlanta. Hi, Austin. Welcome everybody. And so, yes, if you don't hear me call out your name, but you said hello, if your profile on LinkedIn is private and we're not first connections, then it'll just show up as LinkedIn user. So just that tad bit. I see someone else saying, hi, Jasmyn, nice seeing you from Tampa, Florida. Hi. You're one of the people that just says LinkedIn user, but hello. Somebody else from Cali. It's 4 minutes after. I'm going to give everybody one more minute to join. I like to kind of give everybody 5 minutes to join before we get started with the questions. So, hey, everybody. We're going to start off with questions. Hi, somebody from Don Hawkshaw in New Jersey. Welcome. We're going to start off answering the questions, continuing from the running list that we had. So anybody that has any more questions, please drop it in the comments. If you already submitted a question and you have more questions, feel free to just keep asking questions. That's what I'm here for. So there's no such thing as too many questions. Just hop on the list. Let's see. I'm going to give everybody a few more minutes, like 30 more seconds, and then we'll hop into the first question, which is from Krista. And let's see, did anybody else send me any questions yet on the new? Nope, I don't see any questions yet from today, but that's fine. We have plenty on the list. So, okay, let's go ahead and get started. So, Krista, her first question was, she asked about tips for staying organized and managing all study information. So that's a great question. Hi, Gloria from Tampa. That's a great question, Krista. So it all kind of depends on your style of organization and how your brain processes information, what kind of works for you. So there's multiple ways. So I'll give you a few different ways. Hey, Keisha, my client Keisha, welcome. Thank you for joining. But so it depends on you. One way I'll tell you how I like to stay organized. I always have put everything in my calendar. So I'll use my phone, and then I also have a paper calendar, and I put everything on there. And when I say everything, I truly mean everything. And it didn't start out this way. There were times where I would just block out like the appointments or the meetings, like the big things. But now I've learned that I have to literally put everything on there in order to fit everything in. So even if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you still want to block out time periods for that activity. So, for example, if you want to fit in working out, exercising, something like that, taking a walk, maybe you don't know exactly what you're going to be doing, but you know you want to do something to move your body every day. So you could set out Monday through Friday, 7 to 9. Hey, Nakia from Arizona. Nice to see you again. But yes, you can block out your schedule from like 7 to 8, 7 to 9 in the morning, Monday through Friday, and just put exercise, me time, move your body, whatever. Let's say that you know that you want to start reading. So you would put that on there and say every Friday between 5 and 6 or 7 and 9, whatever the case is. Let's say you have kids and they have extracurricular activities, or you want to spend quality time with your kids, or you have a significant other, you want to spend quality time with your significant other. Put that on the calendar. It doesn't necessarily have to be an official date or an official event, but just you planning to spend that quality time lets you know, okay, I need to make sure number one, I'm not planning anything else between this time period. But then number two, it helps you visually see everything that you want to accomplish, that you want to get done. And let's say that you want to, there's some extra, I want to start taking cooking classes. So I blocked out time for things like that. I knit, for those of you who don't know. Knitting is one of my hobbies. So I'll block out knitting time. I like to swim. I also like to swim specifically for exercising. So I'll put that on my schedule. I have a morning routine and a bedtime routine. And any of my clients, Keisha, any other clients that's on this call, y'all know I have a lengthy morning and bedtime routine, but I put that on my schedule. So anything that you have, even eating, y'all, even if I want, if I'm gonna eat breakfast, take some snack time, some lunch, and I work from home remotely outside of travel. So I put all of that on the schedule. And sometimes you might be a little bit off, right? But it helps you see everything that you have to do. And once you start doing that, you can actually see just how much time you're wasting. Because a lot of times we waste time, we don't even realize it, but it also helps push you to stay on track because you're like, okay, I know I have to do this at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. So I can't, procrastinate or waste time or lollygag doing other stuff. So yes, it really helps you stay on schedule. And Keisha, I see you say yes, LOL. But yeah, so you have to put everything, every little thing on your schedule. As soon as something pops up in your head, you need to do this. If you need to pay a bill, hey, Dr. David, if you need to call the doctor, whatever you need to do, block out time for that. And then also make sure you block out time to do nothing. You want to have space to have free time to just relax, to just rest. You want to have space just in case something comes up. So block out those times too. You can say every day between, I don't know, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, whatever the case may be. That's going to be your free time. So you can do whatever you want to do with it. Sit down and watch TV, watch Netflix, talk to a friend, whatever the case may be. But staying organized, you have to capture every single thing that you're going to do on a calendar. It can be electronic, it can be paper, it can be both. I personally choose both. And then, Krista, you asked about managing all your study information. That would be using trackers. So some of the larger CROs, they have systems that are already like the CTMS, and they have additional apps already in place for you to add to your phone. Dr. David, I see you're from Ghana. But some CROs, they have apps that you can add to your phone that will kind of keep track of these things for you. They're not all inclusive. They, at least the ones I've seen so far, where technology is kind of catching up with the things that we need in the industry. So you won't be able to track every single thing for your site, but that's fine because you can track it yourself. And I recommend Excel. But if you don't have Excel, then you can use the Google spreadsheet doc. And I talked about him the last time, but the CRA coach, David, he actually, in his course, the ASAP CRA course, he has these amazing trackers already built out, created for you guys. And you literally, all you got to do is plug it in. So I'll add the information to his course again for you guys, so you can check that out. But everything that you're talking about in terms of managing all your study information, he has anything that you can possibly think about for your site that you will need to track, that you will need to know, and have that information readily available. He has it all captured in his trackers. But just so you know, for those of you who aren't, able to sign up for his course or invest in it just yet, you can create these trackers on your own. So there's also a really good Excel. I can't remember the name. I want to say it's cheat sheet, or I'll look up the name for you guys. It's a really great. They're on YouTube, they're on LinkedIn, but it's a page that they actually give you all these quick tips on how to use all the different features of Excel. So you can generate your own tracker and track all the things, like literally all the regulatory things that will be required for you to collect to be stored up at the site in the ISF. You can track all that for all of your sites. You can track all the information for your patients in terms of, when they screened, when they enrolled, if they screen failed, when they screen failed, if they passed away, when they died, when they were dosed, what visit they're on, any SAEs. You will be able to track all that information too, and you can set it up yourself. So I'll put David's course, and then I'll put that other Excel that page information on in the comments for you as well once we end. And I see Cindy, hey, from New Jersey. Kalel, if I pronounce your name wrong, I apologize. Hi. So that's another way that you can manage all of your study information, but trackers. And if you're one of those people who is like, I'm not going to take time to, learn these spreadsheets, I need something more simple, you can use OneNote. That's another thing that's more simple. You can always go old school and just create a regular Word document, write everything up for you. I recommend spreadsheets just because you can always, once you learn how to use them, guys, you can learn how to filter and find information so quickly and be able to copy and paste and send it to whoever you need to, and it makes your life so much easier. But I understand if that's not something that you really want to, learn right now. But so you can use OneNote. There's Evernote. There's another one. There's a lot of different platforms, but you can always go old school and just use a plain document. You can use Google Docs if you don't have Word. You can even just write it out, but that's totally up to you. And then Krista, your next question was general tips for traveling as a CRA. So number one, I would say that make sure you register for all of the rewards programs for all of the major airlines that you most likely will, be traveling. But sometimes maybe Delta is my primary airline, but sometimes I can't get a Delta flight. I have to do American, or I might have to do United. So I try to do, or Southwest. So I try to do all the primaries at least, just so if I do have to schedule one of those flights or I do get transferred over, I'll at least be collecting points and not just wasting them. Because when you travel, your points are your points, regardless of what company you're traveling for, whether you're a W-2 employee, a 1099 employee, those points are your points. So as you accumulate them, guess what? You will be able to use them to get the free flights. So definitely register for all of the airlines, all of the hotels, the main chains at least. I always say at least the Marriott chain and at least the Hilton. Sometimes, again, those will be booked and you'll have to choose other hotels, but you at least want to register for the main ones. The same thing for car rental companies. The main ones, a lot of the larger CROs, they have preferred partners. So they might say they prefer you to fly Southwest, or they prefer you to stay at Marriott, or they prefer you to choose Hertz. So that might be the determining factor as well in terms of which one you want to make your primary. However, sometimes whoever is the preferred partner or whoever is your primary choice, they're just not going to be available. So that's why I always say to go ahead and register for at least all of the main ones. So same thing applies to the car rentals. And what else would I say? A lot of my colleagues use Uber in times where, you know, they don't want to drive and they want transportation. I personally don't like Uber. I'm a taxi girl. I don't know. I just like the idea of the fact that I want somebody who's driving me who's like, this is their primary source of income. Like, I feel like they take it more serious. And some people are like, yeah, but the taxi cars aren't always as nice as some of the Ubers. That might be the case, but with the Uber cars, you never know who you're. I don't know. In my mind, the taxi is more professional. It's like, this is what you're here for type of thing. And you don't have to worry about if they brought some people with them and like, I don't know. So that's all your preference. Just know whether it's a taxi, whether it's Uber, Lyft, whatever, all those costs are covered. But so I'm saying that long-windedly to say that depending on where you live, you might be in a place where you take taxis more often, like the Northeast, for example. So some of those taxi lines, they now have reward systems as well. So just make sure whatever you're using, even restaurants, if you eat at a particular restaurant very often, they have reward points. So just make sure you investigate and see and take a look at everything that has reward points. Claudia, I see that you have a question. I'll add you to the list. But make sure you register for all rewards possible. And then the next thing I would say is TSA Pre-Check. So surprisingly, I find that a lot of monitors, even though we travel a lot, still don't have TSA Pre-Check. And I guess maybe it's not as important for some people because they actually get to the airport on time and they arrive early and they don't have to rush. But that's not me, y'all. I'm the person that is a little bit impatient and I don't really like to wait in line. So I get there right when it's time. And TSA Pre-Check helps you avoid the main general regular line. And it helps you kind of, you know, jump that line into the TSA Pre-Check line. But I find that a lot of people nowadays, back in the day, not that many people had it, but more and more people are getting onto it. And depending on your airport, sometimes the general line might be shorter than the TSA Pre-Check line. Some airports are super small. They don't even have a TSA Pre-Check line. But nevertheless, it's always definitely good to have for those larger airports that always have the long hour, 2 hour line, like Hartsville in Atlanta and in Orlando. And where else? In Texas, definitely those types of places, it comes in handy. And on top of that, I would add to get clear. Now, a lot of people don't like to get clear just because it's not as prevalent yet. They're always adding cities. It was becoming more widespread before COVID. That kind of slowed it down a little bit, but I still recommend Clear. And it is a little bit more expensive, I will say. TSA Pre-Check, you pay for, I want to say it's $85 for 5 years, as opposed to Clear, it's every year. And I want to say it's like 160, 170, something like that every year, unless you have a certain status with Delta, I think, maybe Hertz. But depending on your status, it might be free. But nevertheless, even if you have to pay that 161 whatever per year, I still say it's worth it because Clear will also help you get that extra jump. So the places that I mentioned that have like the super busy airports, and for somebody like me who's always late, if you have Clear and TSA Pre-Check, then you get to jump not only the general line, but then you get to jump the TSA Pre-Check line. And literally, Clear has saved my life on several occasions. I would not have made it if it wasn't for Clear. So I recommend getting both of those. And then I always recommend only taking a carry-on bag. And if you pack the right way, you can get a whole week's worth of clothes in a carry-on bag. And yes, ladies, a whole week if you pack the right way. You do not need 2 bags. You don't need the big jumbo bag that you need. You feel like you have to check. Absolutely not. You can efficiently pack in that one little carry-on bag. And I say that because number one, it saves time when it comes time to get off the plane, because you don't have to wait and baggage claim and get your bag, right? And then number two, I sometimes it's just issues, and you don't know, they might lose your bag or something might happen. I've heard several stories where something happened with the bag. They didn't get their bag until it was time to come home. Sometimes they didn't even get their bag until after they came home. And then, they had to ship the bag to their house. So they're scrambling around trying to go to the store and find some clothes to wear for a site visit. You don't want that to be you. And if you take your bag with you, you don't have to worry about it being you, right? So I just always I like to have all my stuff on the plane with me. Sometimes, it might not be enough space for you to put your bag overhead, but they still take those bags and put them in a different area than the official baggage claim. So you'll get it once you get off the plane. It'll be right there at the end of the gate for you versus you having to go to baggage claim. So you gotta stop checking these bags. I would say those would be, and then one last one I would say, bring a blanket. I always bring a blanket because at the airport it's typically cold, on the plane it's typically cold. I'm one of those people that can sleep anywhere. As soon as I sit down, I'm gonna doze off. So if you make yourself comfortable, you can always take a nap. Engine, I see. Okay. If you make yourself comfortable enough, you can always take a nap. So bring your blanket. I bring my blanket. I bring some warm socks. I bring a pillow. I make sure I always have some nice little going to sleep meditation music going, and I'm knocked out. So I would say those are the main things. What else would I add? And then I would look up places to eat before I get there, so that you can already kind of have like those types of things taken care of and mapped out in terms of where you're gonna eat. You don't want to waste time on things like that. Most of the time, if I'm being real, I eat in the hotel. I'm one of those people too. But if you're not and you want to venture out, I would say take advantage of that and plan it before you get there. So that's the general travel tips. And then Krista had another question. So dress code for site visits. Dress codes, that's a good question. So a lot of people think before they become monitors that you have to be real, like super business suit, dressed up, kind of dressy, right? Annie, I see, hi. And that's not true. So for the men, a lot of men, when they first come on, they wear the suits. They have some of them the three-piece suits. You have the blazer, you might have the vest under the pants, right? No, you don't need all that. Just a nice polo type of shirt. You don't even have to really have on a button up polo type of shirt. Some nice, you can wear some khakis. I don't really recommend jeans. Stay away from the jeans, but some nice khakis, some nice it doesn't have to be the super dressy shoes, but just some nice nice casual, business casual, I would say, type of shoes. You don't need a tie, you don't need a bow tie, any of those things. For women, you don't have to have on a dress or a business suit either. It can be very casual, same thing as the man. It could be just a regular casual blouse. I don't recommend a t-shirt and some jeans now. And then they do also, depending on the site, they do not want you to wear open-toed shoes. That's another thing to keep in mind. Some sites are a little bit more flexible, especially if you're in like some of the warmer states, like in Florida, maybe some in the West Coast. So you can ask about each site's particular dress code, but even if you do decide, if the site is okay with the open toe shoes, I would still say lean closer towards, the business casual type of open toed, and not just the like beach sandal flip flops type of open toed. But something that you're comfortable in, but still maintaining that business casual look. But it doesn't have to be the dressy, formal, going to court attorney type of look. I'll put it that way. So it's more lax and is more laid back than most people think. Now moving on to Judy. Time really does fly. Moving on to Judy. Judy P's question is, are there non-traveling CRA positions? And I think somebody in the comments answered this the last time, but I do want to address this for you, Judy. Yes, there are non-traveling CRA positions. So we call these positions in-house CRA positions or remote-based CRA position. Typically in-house would be the terminology though. And so there's what I categorize as like kind of the two different groups of in-house. So there's the in-house CRA for like the newly clinical research entry level experience type of person, and then there's the in-house CRA jobs for the regional traveling CRAs that are coming off the road, so they're more for like the senior experienced professional, but they're still in-house positions. So depending on where you are in your career, you want to be conscious of which type of position you are applying to. But yes, long story short, and I see you, Sydney. Long story short, yes, there are non-traveling clinical research associate positions. So you want to look for terms like in-house CRA, remote CRA. I've even seen some people just flat out say non-traveling CRA jobs. So, and then I've also seen them titled as site monitor. But I've also seen regional CRA roles titled as site monitor too. So just keeping in mind that depending on the company, they are kind of, hiding these positions with the title. So just, put out that broad search and then go through them and see which ones, read the description and see which ones are actually in-house non-traveling positions. And I see Cloud, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I see your question too, but just go through and see. But yes, there are many CRA positions out there where you do not have to travel. And the in-house CRA position is actually one of the top 3 that I recommend for people that are trying to get their foot in the door and land their first CRA position. The first one, and not that one is better than the other, because I think they're all pretty on the similar playing field, but I always recommend the CTA position or clinical trial assistant. You might see clinical trial associate, study coordinator, clinical research coordinator. Those are the same, different terms, same positions, but that position and then the in-house CRA role, all 3 of those roles are like the most prominent direct paths to landing your first CRA position. And I see some other questions coming up here. And then for Judy, her next question was, are there opportunities for bridging into CRA by training part-time with experience elsewhere in research? So I'm not exactly quite sure, Judy, what you mean by are there opportunities for bridging into CRA by training part-time? But I will say that there are, number one, there are some CRA bridge programs with certain colleges, universities, institutions. They have bridged with some CROs. And so you might want to check. It's not a lot of them. I know PPD used to do one with, I think it was UNC Wilmington. So there's a few of those out there where they, some universities have bridged their clinical research bachelors with CROs. And then there are also, mostly I see at the larger CROs, they have bridging programs where the 3 positions that I just mentioned, like let's say, for example, the CTA role, they have a bridging program for the CTA employees to transition into the CRA position. And some of the sponsors, they have these positions, these bridging programs as well. But I typically see them at the larger CROs because they'll have more of these roles, more of these positions. So they'll bring in like bigger groups at one time versus the sponsor side. They have, maybe 1 or 2 positions. And then the CRO side, they might have like 30. So you can find these bridging programs within the companies themselves, and you do get paid. You are an employee. So it's not like a non-paid internship or volunteering or anything like that. This is an actual job where they transition you from A to B, B being the CRA position. And then, and another thing I hear people say, well, is there something that I can do to train even with Judy's question about training part-time with experience elsewhere in research? Really, it goes back to those 10 categories that I always mention to y'all about getting experience in as many of those categories as you possibly can. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the 3 primary paths that I mentioned. You could have a study startup position. You could have a data entry position. You could have a research specialist position where you're doing a little bit of everything. There's so many different roles in the industry. So it doesn't have to be those three primary roles, but that just kind of gives you, those are the three roles where you can typically get a little bit of everything, so to speak. But you just got to get experience wherever you can, because we all know it can be challenging to get any role in the industry. So it goes back to those 10 categories. And for those of you, I know I have some new people joining me today, but for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, so I have a podcast called Confessions of a CRA. Check that out. You can go to confessionsofacra.com, or you can go to your favorite podcast platform and take a look at episode 18 and episodes 22. And those two episodes will reference the 10 categories that I'm talking about, so that you can, as you look for positions, and it's not even necessarily about the title, y'all. Don't get so caught up in the title. You want to look at the job description and see what you're going to be doing and see how much experience you can gain in those categories, essentially. So don't get so caught up in the job title, because that's not really the most important thing. And so to answer your questions, Judy, I hopefully that addressed everything. But in terms of like getting part-time experience somewhere else, you can sometimes find part-time roles. Don't count out contract roles. So reach out to recruiters for agencies like Aerotech. They have part-time contract roles sometimes. And then also, don't be afraid to ask your local sites if they need some help. You can also volunteer. A lot of people don't like to go that route because it's not paid, right? But at the end of the day, if you want to become a CRA, if you want to create a career in this industry, you have to be willing to do what it takes. And I actually volunteered at a site as a study coordinator right out of graduate school. So you really can't, feel like you're above anything when it comes to doing what you need to do to get to that next level and establish and create the career that you want for yourself. So Judy, let me know if that addressed everything. If not, you can send me a message directly or put it in the comments and let me know, what other questions you might have based off of my response. So our next question comes from, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name right, but it's Ntando, Ntando. And this question is, how do you incorporate your previous experience from pharma QC labs and other professions and transition into the CRA role without hands-on clinical research or regulatory affairs experience? So this goes back to, and I think I've addressed this in week 1, possibly week 2, but it goes back to being able to clearly articulate your transferable skills. And you really, 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 guys, hear me when I say you have to spell it out for the recruiters. It's not, and I've had people that argue me down about this, and they're like, well, why should I have to spell it out? It's very clear to see, like, why can't they see that I can do this job? I have this experience, I have this, that, and the third, right? But it's not their job to put the pieces of the puzzle together. It's your job to put it together for them. So that you have these skills that are clearly transferable and clearly make you, capable of doing the job, right? So just spell it out for them. That's all y'all have to do. You have to clearly highlight it and show it on your LinkedIn profile, on your resume, in your cover letter, during the interview, during the phone screen. Bring up those points and make the connections for them. Don't leave it open-ended. Don't make an assumption that, oh, of course, I have QC lab experience. So of course, if I can, if I know how to manage quality control in the lab, of course I can do the same thing when it comes to clinical research. No. And to be honest, that's not even true, because lab and research, bench science research and clinical research are two different worlds. They speak two different languages. They go by two different practices. The lab has GLP, whereas clinical research has GCP. So there is some differences, y'all. There is some differences. However, even though there are differences, there's still a lot of overlap. There's still a lot of things that are transferable, that you can that makes you definitely qualified and capable, but you have to be able to articulate that. So that is the, I guess, roundabout way of answering your question, your first question. And also another thing that I always recommend is for people that maybe don't have that clinical research experience, that direct experience, get a GCP train, get GCP certificate. GCP Finding, they offer one. You can Google gcpfinding.com. City, I always recommend their GCP training. City, CITI, it's very well known. I can put both of those links in the comments for you. But get some training in those areas. And you'll be able to then put that on your resume. You'll be able to put that on your LinkedIn profile. But then that'll also show people that you're serious about getting into the industry. And not only that, it will help you have that GCP foundation knowledge, which is like the basis of being able to conduct clinical research, because everything is done in reference and in compliance and acknowledging GCP guidelines. So that would be my recommendation there. And then the next question comes from Michaela Collins, and she says, how many trials do you monitor at one time on average? Does the number increase with years of experience? And what do you think the max would be? So that's a great question, Michaela. Now, depending on the company, depending on the department within the company, depending on whether it's the CRO side, the sponsor side, the site side, all of these numbers vary. They can change. And it's like so weird, but it's like all over the place. Within one company, even within one side, one department of the company, I've had colleagues that only had one protocol. And then there's people that have had 5. The most protocols I've had at one time, y'all, was 7. And it was rough. I'm not going to lie, with 7 protocols. I've had study coordinators. While I was their monitor, they were the study coordinator on the study. I've had some of them tell me that they had 10 protocols as study coordinators. And that is just absolutely insane to me, to have somebody trying to manage 10 protocols at one time. And y'all know I work in the oncology space. So these are very complex trials, very sick patients. They have a lot of moving pieces. So it's just insane to think about that amount of workload being put on one person. But if I'm being real, Michaela, sometimes that's the case. Some companies manage it better than others. And again, sometimes it's just somebody falling through the cracks, there's been a high turnover rate, especially after COVID hit. But it could just be that turnover where they're backfilling roles, or they're taking on more new contracts and they don't really have, the resources to take on those new contracts yet, but they're taking them on. So you're having to fill in the gaps until they find somebody else. There's a lot of reasons that don't have anything to do with monitoring, that don't even have anything to do with ClinOps or the sites or the sponsors of the studies. Is really just internal, high level decisions that, is based upon board members, or based upon stocks, or based upon revenue goals that affect us down below, that might make those numbers go up and down. So you really just got to kind of get in there, work for a company, and see, number one, they'll and it is hard to say, because companies will promise you one thing and sometimes it doesn't turn out that way. And it's not that they're just, being fake or just intentionally being misleading or misguiding or lying. Sometimes they have with all good intentions to fulfill that promise, but there's just so many things that are constantly happening within each organization that there's no way that they can stand by that without dropping the ball elsewhere. So things just are constantly shifting and changing. So you have to really just kind of start working for a company and see what manager you get, because that also makes a lot of difference. If you have a manager, a line manager that really backs you up and supports you and tries to make sure that you have that balance when it comes to your site load, your workload, whatever the case may be, and then the company itself. So that it can be tricky. And then, does the number increase with the years of experience? Unfortunately not. When I had 7 protocols, that was I think I was starting my second year of monitoring. So no, and then I'll know some monitors that have been monitored for 10, 15 years and they might have one protocol. So again, unfortunately, that's not the case. It just depends on the company and resourcing at the time, the projects they have on their plate at the time. And then what do I think the max could be? Like I said, I've had 7. I thought the max would be like 4 or 5. So to be honest with you, I never even thought it would be 7. And then, like I said, as a study coordinator, I've heard 10. I've had a study coordinator with 10. I've heard some that had even more. So at this point, y'all, I don't even know. Hopefully nobody has more than 7 as a monitor, no more than 10 as a study coordinator. But if you're on this call and you're a study coordinator or you work at the site, let us know in the comments how many protocols you currently have. And then if you're a CRA currently and you're on this call, let us know how many protocols or the max number of protocols you've ever had. And vice versa for anybody that is at the site now or they used to be at the site. Share with us in the comments what's your max number of protocols, and let's kind of take a little poll and see, what's going on out here. That was a good question. Okay, and then Michelle, her question is, what CRO gives the best new CRA training? Now, Michelle, you trying to get me in trouble? I'm not I don't want to say who has, and let's just say that all of the CROs they all have good CRA training. Let's just start there. Baby or Babby, I see you started your CRA position today. Congratulations. Congratulations. That is amazing. That's wonderful. And so I don't want to, step on any toes or make anybody mad. So like I said, we're going to start out and say everybody, all of the CROs, they have some good training. Gloria, I see as a data entry coordinator, you had 8, and as a CRA 1, you have had 1. Okay. That's a good start. As thank God you only had 1. But you see, Gloria, she had 8 at one point. But if you get in with any of the CROs and you get their training, you're going to be going off to data entry specialist. You're going to be going off to getting off to a great start. So that's the first thing. I started with it was quintiles back then, and that's where I got my CRA training. So I'm gonna always be a little bit biased when it comes to Q. Now IQVIA, they have great training. I know PPD does as well. Covance, which is now LabCorp, has great training. Cineos, I've heard, has great training. MedPace, I believe, has really great training as well. Catalyst is coming out with, I know, boot camp type of training. So be on the lookout for Catalyst training. I'm not sure if Premier does. Who else? I know I'm missing somebody. Icon PRA, they've become one, has great training. I know I'm missing somebody. If there's a CRO that you have in mind and I haven't mentioned them, please put them in the comments and I'll let you know about their training. But like I said, you really can't go wrong. If you have a opportunity to receive an offer for, being trained as a CRA at one of the CROs, you can't go wrong. Honestly, they all have good training. They all are that's the best ideal place that you want to get started. So, and I see Deepika, I see your questions. I'll add those to the list. So that was another great question, Michelle. And then Marianne, I think we might have time for at least 2 more today. Let's see. Marianne, her question is, currently a stay-at-home mom, former process development chemist, now certified CRA. What is the best route to start your CRA career? Many places look for minimum 1 to 2 years experience. So, Marianne, I'm not exactly sure. Oh, yes, Par Excel. Thank you, Jennifer. Par Excel has really great training as well. You are so right. I left out Par Excel. Don't know how I forgot about them. But yes, Par Excel is another great place. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for bringing that up. And then, and she said it's now Calix. Everybody is merging and changing their names, right? It's crazy. So with Marianne, I'm assuming that when you say you're that you're now certified CRA, that you do not have your certification through ACRP, because with ACRP CRA certification, you have to have CRA experience. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, that's really and truly the only industry recognized CRA certification. And like I said, in order to get it, you have to have X amount of hours of experience actually monitoring trials and actually doing the job of the CRA. So with that being said, you said, what is the best route to start your CRA career? And I'm gonna always lean into those three roles, those three paths that I always mention: clinical trial assistant or associate, study coordinator or CRC, and in-house CRA. Those are always going to be my three go-to paths for people that are freshly starting. Now, does that mean that if you got a study startup position that I'm going to say don't take it? No, absolutely not. That's still a great path in. If you have a regulatory coordinator opportunity, take that. If you have a data entry coordinator opportunity, data entry specialist, clinical research specialist. There's so many other roles outside of those three that I mentioned that are still really great opportunities, y'all. So I'm not saying don't take those opportunities and to just hold out and wait for one of the three. That's not what I'm saying. I don't want you to confuse what I'm saying. I'm just simply saying that if you can, target, if you're starting from scratch and you can target three specific pathways that are like the ideal pathways, because you get most of that experience that I've listed in the podcast episode in the 10 categories, and I would say those three. However, getting any type of role and being able to get any experience in general in any of those 10 categories is going to always do you a service, and it's going to always get you one step closer to that CRA role. And Marianne, I see you also said that many places look for a minimum of 1 to 2 years of experience. And I get this a lot of time where people are, they've been looking for so long. You guys are stressed out. You're frustrated. You want to give up. I was there, so I totally get it. You're like, oh my God, all these entry level CRA1 positions say 1 to 2 years of experience, right? Are they crazy? How can they expect me to have experience if I, can't even get my first job? Well, it's not cut and dry. It's not black and white. My first CRA role that I got, it actually had 2 years of experience required on the job description. So they do that for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes to weed out certain types of applicants and see, you only, pull in the more serious ones. Sometimes your experience education can take up for some of the years of experience that's listed. And then also when they say experience, they don't necessarily mean 1 to 2 years specifically of monitoring experience or experience monitoring clinical trials. They could be referencing 1 to 2 years of experience in the industry in general, where you have acquired those monitoring skills, although maybe not in a monitoring capacity. Hence the reason that I always refer to the three roles that I mentioned, or some of the other. I have primary roles, gateway roles that I mentioned, and then I have secondary gateway roles that I'll talk about too. And I don't think now that I think about it, I don't think I went into detail in that and ended my podcast episode. So that's a good one. I'm going to add that to my list to go over primary gateway roles and then secondary gateway roles into the CRA position. But I bring up some of them all the time here, y'all, like the regulatory coordinator, the data entry coordinator, all those roles count. And then we're getting, hey, we got to start going longer with these sessions. I always go over, but the 30 minutes just goes by so quickly. So I'll cover one more from Princess Davis. She asked, where should I begin in the CRA industry? So that's a pretty similar question, right, to Marianne and some of the other ones also. But I'm going to always say the same thing, going back to those positions. So I won't cover that again. But Princess, I'm not sure if you have a degree or not, but if you don't have a bachelor's degree, I'm going to always recommend that. I get a lot of backlash from people saying I've been in the industry for 25 years as a study coordinator, but I can't advance because I don't have a bachelor's. It's not fair. It's not a matter of it being fair, and I get it, y'all. I really do. And I can understand your frustration to a certain extent, right? Because I do have a bachelor's degree, but at the same time, there's just some things that are requirements. And I love the way my mentor Karen put it. There's some things in life just has requirements and the same. And she used the analogy of driving a car. You can't drive a car legally without a license, right? You might be the best driver out there, the safest driver, the most qualified driver ever. But if you don't have a driver's license, you're not legally driving. And there's just some things in life that just require the a license, the basic, the degree, the bachelor's degree. But the good news is, y'all, that in 2022, you can get pretty much a bachelor's degree any way you can, however you want to. You can do it online, full-time, part-time, on the weekend. You can do it in person. You can do it online and in person. There's so many different ways that you can get it. And what's the beauty of our industry is that it doesn't have to be in a particular, major. A lot of people think that it has to be in a science, or it has to be in clinical research, or it has to be some type of clinical based degree. Absolutely not, y'all. There's people that have anthropology degrees. I have a podcast guest coming up. You're going to see she got her degree in theater, and she was in theater for a very long time, a couple decades before she transitioned over. So it is possible, y'all. There's people with English degrees and communication and history all over the place. So you can literally get your degree in whatever you want and still transition over into the CRA space. Now, if you're just starting out and you don't have a degree at all, of course, I'm going to recommend, if a clinical research degree, if you can get one, or a science-based degree, just because it'll only make things a little bit easier for you. But if you already have a degree, there's no need in going back. But if you don't have one, yes, try to get one as close as you can, right, to the sciences or clinical research or the healthcare field. So I'm going to say, get a degree. That's how you want to get started if you already have the degree. And then get some experience in one of those positions where you can gain as much of that industry, basic research, clinical research knowledge as you can in those top 10 categories that I list in my podcast episodes that I mentioned. Try to get as much experience in that as you can. You might have to volunteer. You might have to do an internship. You might not be getting the salary, the income that you want at first, but don't worry about that. If your goal is truly to build the career, the life of your dreams in this industry, the money will come. Trust me. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there and keep going and do what it takes. As long as you don't give up, you definitely will reach your goal. So, we are coming up on the hour, and I do have a call right after this. So, unfortunately, that's all we're going to be able to cover today, but I do have the list of questions still going. I have all the questions that you guys sent me today. So please, anybody that has any more questions, go ahead and send them. Don't wait till the live event, because like I said, I'm keeping a running list, and y'all are sending me a lot of questions. So if you want to get in on the list, you want me to answer your question, please send it as soon as possible. You can comment in the actual video post. You can send me, DM me, whatever works for you. I even have some questions that people post on YouTube. So however you can get it to me, get your question over to me and I will answer it. For those of you who, again, don't know about my podcast, check it out. It's confessionsofacra.com. You can go to the website, or you can check it out on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, and then some of the other the minor ones as well, but definitely on all the majors. And then for those of you who already know you want to work more with me, you want to work closer with me, you want to find out how you can work with me one-on-one as your coach, visit aspiringcra.com. And you can check out how it is to work with me as your coach and meet with me every single week and have me to, one-on-one directly guide you in your CRA career. You can also book a call with me from there as well, and we can talk about how I can specifically help you. And again, that's aspiringcra.com. So until next week, and next week, y'all, they gave me access here on LinkedIn to do an audio event only. So I'm thinking about trying that out, because with the audio event, then y'all can actually come on and ask your questions directly. So I'm thinking about trying that out too. I might have a random Thursday type of event where we can try out the audio, because I still like this, the live video event thing for Mondays. But for any of y'all interested in like a audio only where I can pull you up and you can actually come to the floor and ask your questions directly, let me know what you think. Because I feel like it might be a little bit more personal and you can, you know, explain yourself a little bit better in the moment if we do the audio event too. So let me know about that. And any other questions that you guys have, like I said, feel free to send it to me. Don't hesitate. I'm here to answer your questions. So until next time, and thank you everybody for joining.